In the history of crime, there are certain cases that just stick with you. Vanishing acts that almost defy logic. But I don't think anything compares to what happened on July 15th, 1976 in Chowchilla, California.
No, not on this scale.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a yellow school bus carrying 26 kids, we're talking ages 5 to 14, and their driver, Ed Ray, just disappeared.
It was, and it still is, the single largest mass kidnapping in U.S. history.
Yeah.
An entire bus full of people vanished from a quiet country road in broad daylight.
And the initial shock wasn't just that it happened, it was the scale.
Yeah.
You could immediately tell this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment crime.
Oh, not at all. This was engineered. This was a plot designed to extract maximum value with a chilling level of precision.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our deep dive today is going to get into a crime that was, breathtakingly precise, planned for months. The mystery isn't just how they took 27 people. It's the really chilling technical details of it all. And the motivation behind it is, well, it's one of the most bizarre you'll ever hear.
It is. So what we want to do is trace that timeline of terror. We'll start with the ambush, move through this incredible act of survival, and then really analyze the perpetrators. Because their story, who they were, it forces you to ask some really difficult questions about justice.
So it all starts on a completely normal afternoon. The kids are on the bus, heading home from a swim trip.
Right. And they're on this quiet 2-lane road when they see a white van just parked sideways, blocking the entire road.
So Ed Ray, the driver, he has to stop.
He has to. And as soon as he does, 3 masked men with guns emerge. They force him to open the door, take over the bus, and drive it about a mile away into a dry riverbed.
A really desolate spot.
Totally desolate. And there's another vehicle waiting there, a big green military transport van.
And this is the first clue for investigators, right? The lack of evidence.
Exactly. They were baffled because there were almost no footprints around the bus.
Which is impossible, with 27 people getting off.
Right. But we learned the kidnappers made Ray and all the children jump. They had to jump directly from the bus steps into the back of the waiting vans.
Wow. Just to avoid leaving tracks.
Just to avoid leaving tracks. The level of forensic awareness there is, it's astonishing. It shows you they weren't just thinking about the grab, they were planning the cover-up from the very start.
So now they're all loaded into these 2 locked, darkened vans.
And they're driven for 11 hours. 11 grueling hours. You have to remember, the temperatures in Madeira that day got up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Unbearable.
Inside that green van, it was a nightmare. It was an old, enclosed prisoner compartment. We're talking less than 200 cubic feet of air for 15 people.
So the air's getting thin, it's getting hot.
It's getting hot. They can't breathe. They're dehydrating. No food, no water, no bathroom stops for nearly half a day. The sources are pretty clear. They were subjected to forced incontinence. They were being systematically broken down.
Long before they even got to where they were going.
Long before. Which brings us to the destination.
Yeah.
And this is where the planning just gets almost absurd.
Right.
After 11 hours and over 100 miles, they pull into a rock quarry in Livermore, a quarry that was owned by the father of one of the kidnappers.
There it is. That's the connection. That's the privilege that lets you use private land for something like this.
Exactly. And waiting there for them was this makeshift dungeon. They forced everyone out, made them climb through a hole in the ground, and go down a ladder.
And what's at the bottom?
An old 26-foot-long Fruhoff moving van. Just buried underground.
Oh, my God.
They'd kitted it out with a few things. Some old mattresses, some water, a little bit of food, which the kids ate almost immediately out of just sheer anxiety.
But the air. How do you keep 27 people breathing underground in a sealed metal box?
Well, this is part of that chilling calculation. They had modified it. They had installed these flexible hoses connected to battery-powered fans.
So they engineered a ventilation system.
They did. Capable of supplying 59 cubic feet of air per minute. They figured out exactly how much air was needed to keep them alive long enough to get the ransom. They treated these human beings like variables in an equation.
So once everyone is down there, they seal them in.
They sealed them in. They put a heavy steel plate over the opening. Then they put 2 massive 100-pound industrial batteries on top of that.
To weigh it down.
Right. Then a piece of plywood, and then they covered the whole thing with 2 feet of dirt. They were literally buried alive.
And what did the kidnapper say to them?
They told them they'd be confined for 24 to 48 hours. But inside, things got critical, fast. The air turned foul, humid. Kids started getting sick, nosebleeds, fainting spells. After about 16 hours, they were in serious trouble.
They're trapped in the dark, the air is getting toxic, and they're starting to think maybe no one is coming back for them.
Exactly. But that 16-hour mark, That's where the story pivots. From pure terror to just unbelievable heroism, they refused to just wait.
This is where the driver, Ed Ray, and one of the older kids, Michael Marshall, step up.
Yes. Michael Marshall, who was 14, he and Ray and another teen basically decided, enough is enough.
And Marshall's quote is just incredible. He said something like, "If we're going to die, we're going to die getting the hell out of here."
That resolve in a 14-year-old kid in that situation, it's stunning.
So what did they do? How do you even start?
They started stacking the mattresses. It was a desperate move, but it gave them just enough height to reach the ceiling hatch.
The one the kidnappers had sealed.
The very one. Ray and Marshall worked together, and somehow they managed to move that incredibly heavy steel plate.
But that's not all that was up there.
No. Then they had to deal with the 200 pounds of batteries. And after that, a big reinforced plywood box that was used as an inner seal. This was just grueling physical work in total darkness.
And Michael Marshall just kept at it.
He kept digging and pounding at the plywood until he made a small hole. Then he made it bigger. And slowly, one by one, all 27 of them scrambled out. Ray helped lift the littlest ones.
They got out. They actually dug themselves out.
They did. They emerged from the ground, walked over to the quarry guard shack, and finally called for help.
And physically, they were okay.
Miraculously, yes. I mean, they had cuts, bruises, stomach issues from the escape, but they were alive. And those minor physical injuries, those cuts and bruises, they unfortunately become a huge deal later on in the legal fight.
We'll definitely get to that. But I want to stick with Michael Marshall for a second, this 14-year-old hero. There's a really strange detail where he later said that as he was about to talk to reporters right after the escape, the school principal stopped him.
Yeah, stepped right in and said, "Let them go home, get some sleep." Denied him that moment.
It's like, from the very beginning, the adults were trying to control the narrative, maybe not even realizing this psychological impact on these kids.
And that's a really insightful way to put it. It was about containing the chaos, not necessarily processing the trauma.
Okay, so the investigation.
Yeah.
How do police go from finding 27 people in a quarry to figuring out who did this?
The big break came from Ed Ray, the driver. He underwent what was then a pretty new technique, forensic investigative hypnosis.
To try and recall details he couldn't consciously remember.
Exactly. And through that process, he was able to recall the license plate of one of the vans. He got every single digit but one.
That's incredible. And that was enough.
That was the key that unlocked the whole case. After that, arrests followed pretty quickly. The three men, Frederick Woods IV, James Schoenfeld, and Richard Schoenfeld, were caught trying to get to Canada.
And they found a draft of the ransom note at the estate of Woods' father.
Right near the quarry. The whole thing was right there.
And the country was shocked when their names came out, because these weren't who anyone expected.
Not at all. These were not desperate men. Woods was 24, from a really prominent California family. The Schoenfeld brothers were sons of a well-respected doctor.
This is where the motive of entitlement comes in.
It's all about entitlement. Woods and James Schoenfeld were in debt from a real estate deal that went bad. So their motivation wasn't, poverty. It was a sense that they were owed more wealth.
And they needed the money for another real estate project.
Get this. They wanted the $5 million ransom to fund the restoration of a historic Victorian mansion, the Rengstork House. They wanted to make it their private home.
They buried 26 kids and their bus driver alive.
Yeah.
For a down payment on a mansion.
Essentially, yes. They only needed about $60,000 to get the project moving. It's just an extraordinary example of crime motivated purely by privilege.
And their plan for getting the ransom was just as cold.
Chillingly pragmatic. They knew the state of California had just announced a big budget surplus, and they expected the state to pay the $5 million from that.
But their meticulous planning hit a very human snag.
It did. The phone lines into Chowchilla were completely jammed. Frantic parents, the media, nobody could get a line through.
So the kidnappers couldn't even make their demand.
They couldn't get an operator. And while 27 people were suffocating underground, the kidnappers literally took a nap, figuring they'd just try again later. It just shows this profound disconnect from the human suffering they were causing.
Just a business transaction to them.
Completely. James Schoenfeld explained their calculus at a parole hearing years later. He said, and I'm quoting here, "We needed multiple victims to get multiple millions, and we picked children because children are precious. They don't fight back. They're vulnerable. They will mind."
Just unbelievably cold.
So they were caught, convicted, and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. 27 concurrent sentences.
But that's not where the story ends.
Not even close. In 1980, they appealed, and the appeal hinged on a very specific legal technicality in the kidnapping law.
The bodily harm clause.
Exactly. To get a sentence of life without parole, the crime had to involve bodily harm. And the appellate panel, which, interestingly, included Judge William Newsom.
Father of the future governor.
Right. They reviewed the physical evidence. And remember those minor injuries? The cuts, the bruises, the nosebleeds they got while escaping?
Yeah.
The court ruled that those injuries did not meet the statute's definition of substantial physical injury. Essentially, the legal definition of bodily harm was so narrow that the immense psychological terror didn't count, and the scrapes from escaping weren't considered severe enough.
So because of a legal definition, their sentences were changed.
Commuted to life with the possibility of parole, and that legal loophole opened the door for their eventual release.
So when did they get out?
Richard Schoenfeld was paroled in 2012. His brother James got out in 2015. And Frederick Woods, the one seen as the ringleader, he was denied 17 times.
17 times.
But he was finally paroled in 2022 at age 70.
And what's so disturbing about Woods is that the privilege that drove the crime just never went away. Even in prison, he was the heir to a massive family fortune.
One filing mentioned his trust fund was worth over $100 million.
And he used it from behind bars.
He did. He was constantly getting in trouble for running businesses with contraband cell phones, a gold mine, a Christmas tree farm, even a used car business.
And I read that the used car business reportedly included the 2 original kidnapping vans.
That's right. He was hoping to sell them for a huge profit because of their notoriety.
It's just a complete lack of remorse.
And it gets worse. While he was incarcerated, his trust fund was used to buy a $1.5 million mansion with an ocean view, just a 30-minute drive from the prison.
So while he's serving time, his wealth is providing him comfort and opportunity. And what about the victims?
Well, in stark contrast, they've carried this every single day. Research documented severe, lifelong PTSD, panic attacks, substance abuse.
The trauma never goes away.
Never. Survivors still have nightmares. One of them, Jennifer Brownhide, testified that she suffers from the lifetime effects of being buried alive. And for her, Woods' entitlement was just a constant mockery of justice.
And yet through all that suffering, there's that legacy of bravery. Survivors crediting Michael Marshall for teaching them the most important lesson.
You don't give up. You keep digging. That's what defined their survival.
So we've looked at one of the most callous kidnappings in history, driven not by desperation, but by this warped sense of entitlement and a bizarre real estate fantasy.
And it just lays bare the devastating lifelong impact of trauma on young people and the often frustrating way the legal system works, where a narrow definition of bodily harm can completely change the outcome.
So that leaves you with a final, I think, very provocative thought. When you look at the huge gap between the victim's trauma and the financial privilege that Fred Woods kept running businesses, buying a mansion from jail with his inheritance, it makes you ask a really tough question. When a crime is so rooted in entitlement, and when money continues to protect the criminal from the real consequences of their actions, can our justice system ever truly deliver accountability for the victims? You have to wonder, what does justice even look like when that kind of wealth is involved?